Bitcoin. Good morning, everybody. We're gonna do another Bitcoin lesson for today. For all the Bitcoin newbies out there, remember what I said. Um, I'm just doing this to basically to help people start their Bitcoin journey. So if you're just starting out your Bitcoin journey, this is a channel for you because I'm simplifying everything. I don't want to come up with complicated terms. I just want to say it in a simple way what Bitcoin is and what it's about. And today's lesson, in the Bitcoin world, you probably hear this phrase all the time. I've heard it all the time, so maybe I'm the only one. Uh, the phrase is basically, it says, fix the money, fix the world. And sometimes, what do you mean by that? If you're not a Bitcoiner, or you're not involved, or you're not in a Bitcoin rabbit hole, what do you mean by that? Fix the money, fix the world. Well, basically, if you have to fix the money, there's something wrong with the money, right? And there is. So let's go over it, okay? Let's see what that phrase means so we can study it a little bit, and hopefully when you hear that term, fix the money, fix the world, you know exactly what they're talking about. The traditional money, which is the fiat money all over the world, like in the Philippines it's the peso, in the US it's the dollar, in Europe it's the euro, and everybody can have their own currency. If you use traditional money, the biggest problem basically is inflation and devaluation of the money. Central banks, which control the money, they can print more money if they want to, and that basically leads to inflation and devaluation. And whenever they want some more money, all they do is print some more money, and that's the biggest problem. That's basically the biggest reason why there's high inflation right now, because of money printing. So if you fix that problem, you just have to stop basically that. And then the second problem with traditional money is the centralized control. The money is controlled by the government or central banks, and they can manipulate monetary policy for political or economic reasons. This centralization can lead to corruption, mismanagement, and economic instability. Since the government controls money, it has central control, and central banks, there's chance they can manipulate that, and there's corruption. Almost every government, if you don't have a check and balance, if you let them alone, they will be corrupted. And that's one of the biggest problem with traditional money. The third problem with traditional money is exclusion and inequality. Many people worldwide lacks access to banking services, especially in the Philippines. If you live one of those islands where there's no bank, and because of that, you can't save, you can't invest, you can't participate in the global economy. So if you're not if you're excluded from the financial banks and stuff, that it's gonna come out, there's gonna be more poverty and inequality around this world. And that's why the rich get richer and the poor gets poorer. The poor doesn't invest their money, they just spend it, and the rich, the more money they get, they start investing it, and they get rich. Their money comes back, twofold, threefold, sometimes tenfold. And then there's the lack of transparency. Traditional financial system often lacks transparency, making it difficult to track and prevent corruption, fraud, and misuse of funds. That's the biggest problem in the Philippines, especially if it's a government. So I would say, that's hopefully the Philippines, our country, will make Bitcoin their standard. I'm reading a book, Bitcoin Standard, right now. and I'll make a review out of that. So that's going to be a coming episode. But basically, there's so much corruption all over the world, not only in the Philippines, but everywhere in the world. So how does Bitcoin addresses these issues? All those problems with traditional money. For one thing, Bitcoin has a fixed supply and a deflationary nature. Bitcoin can only make 21 million Bitcoins, and all of them are almost mined. There's only, I think, 1.7 or 1.5 million left to be mined. And because of this, they don't print money. They basically is opposite of inflation, deflation. That means the value of Bitcoin will just keep going higher. It's not like cash where the more supply you make of it, the value will just go down. That's why the dollar or the peso is not worth that much, like 10 years ago. But Bitcoin will just keep going up. So that will prevent the problem of inflation. Bitcoin is the second problem of centralized control. We were talking about this, is Bitcoin is decentralized, the opposite. Nobody, no entity controls Bitcoin. No government controls government. No central bank controls Bitcoin. So nobody can manipulate it. So that will solve the centralized problem. Financial inclusion. Bitcoin can be used by anybody as long as you have internet connection. Anybody. You don't need financial services or everybody that doesn't have a bank or underbanked populations globally, they can use Bitcoin. This promotes economic participation and reduce inequality. That solves the problem of exclusion and inequality. And the fourth problem was transparency, the lack of transparency. Bitcoin is very transparent and secured. Bitcoin transactions are recorded on a public ledger called a blockchain, which is transparent and immutable. You cannot change it. Once it's done, and it's very transparent. It enhances accountability and reduces the potential for fraud and corruption. This is what we need in the Philippines. That's why I said we have to move to the Bitcoin standard in the Philippines. Once we are in a Bitcoin standard, goodbye corruption. There might still be some corruption, but they'll get caught because of the blockchain being very transparent. So that's the reason why we have to move to Bitcoin standard, I would say. So you find out what the problem is, the monetary system, and Bitcoin basically is the way to solve it. So we can empower the people by giving them the right to control their financial future and improve their quality of life. There's going to be economic stability because we don't have less financial crisis happening all over the world. There's going to be more innovation efficiency because the centralized financial system can drive innovation, creating more efficient and cost-effective financial services. And there's going to be global cooperation. A universal borderless currency like Bitcoin can facilitate global trade and cooperation, breaking down barriers and fostering a more interconnected world. Can you imagine that? That's the promises of Bitcoin. And right now, Bitcoin is becoming more and more popular, and the adoption rate is getting stronger and stronger. It's still low right now compared to other like gold and other standards they're using. But the Bitcoin standard is getting up there, and I'm basically one of the advocates, and I want to be one of the advocates for the Philippines to adopt the Bitcoin standard. And that's our lesson for today. So when you hear that term, fix the money, fix the world, that's how they do it, by making Bitcoin the standard and not fiat or not any other currency. Make it. It's going to be good for all of us. Thank you very much for listening.